Good afternoon, it's Jen the Liberty Lion, and I just want to go over a couple things for you. Just some things that I've noticed that I have questions myself about. Maybe once I point them out, you'll start wondering about it too. This is the word state. It's from the American Encyclopedic Dictionary. I believe that dictionary is 1891, somewhere around there. So under the definition of state, we have condition, which is a status, like the status quo. Status is related to your status, your circumstances, your situation, your situ, your laws, which are the situs. The situs, where something sits, lex situs, where there's a seat and where something sits, such as papers. So under this definition, real quick, number 11, a whole people united into a body politic, a civil and self-governing community, often with the. Okay, so what I want to point out here is that when it says in the Constitution, we the people of the United States, it's talking about the people of the United States. The United States was the government created for defense of the country, and so they say things like the Army of the United States, the Navy of the United States. When called into service, the private people become the militia, and they become the militia of the United States when they're under presidential powers. When they're under the governor, they're not of the United States. They're either of the United States of America or the militia of Texas, or the Texas militia. But really, I want to point out to you this use of the word the and how most often this word the is the designator that tells you that it's a political body or a situation or a government, because a government is a situation that people place themselves under. So sometimes we see things written without the word the. Okay, so I want to go over a few things. New light on the history of the Federal Judiciary Act of 1789. The Federal Judiciary Act. And then we have here, okay, so this paper is West v. Barnes from 1791. I looked up the first Supreme Court case, and this is what Google gave me, but Google did not give me this paper. Google gave me a different paper that was typed up that looks quite different from this one, but this one came from Library of Congress. And I've done a video on this before, but I think this video is going to include more information. And with new subscribers tend not to go back and look at the old things, though I have seen many of them are actually going back and looking at my old videos, which is very encouraging. But here, this is from the Library of Congress. This is copy from the Library of Congress. And you can look on the Library of Congress, West v. Barnes, 1791, and you'll get a PDF. And this is what it shows you. Supreme Court of the United States. And I like how they have Supreme Court in bold, and then of in a geographical sense means within, and we know from Article 3 that the Supreme Court is supposed to be situated, or the situation of the Supreme Court, or the law of the Supreme Court is supposed to be in the District of Columbia, which is the seat of the United States. So the Supreme Court sits within the seat of government, United States, and they italicized United States. And we have the Judiciary Act, 1789, the judicial courts of the United States. Okay, so the word the is a hint for us to see and understand that we're talking about the government, be it enacted by the Senate and House of Representatives of the United States of America, and Congress assembled. The Supreme Court of the United States. Okay? If they wanted to use A, they could have used A, but A would mean that there are many Supreme Courts. The would mean that there's one Supreme Court, and that's why the Constitution says one Supreme Court. So it is the Supreme Court of the one and only United States shall consist of a Chief Justice. But the Chief Justices will rotate through time, so the A means that later there will be a different one and maybe a different one after that, whereas the Supreme Court is the one and only and ever shall be the only Supreme Court. The one and only United States and shall ever only be the United States, not just any United States. But we see later that they take off they remove it. Let me see if I can find it. Okay, so this you see is libraryofcongress.gov. And it says Supreme Court of the United States. This is the same one I just showed you. It's from Library of Congress. Then you go to Justia, U.S. Supreme Court, and they've written it completely different. A U.S. Supreme Court. So if I were to take a guess and tell you my opinion from the 1968 case, that this has already become a legal situation or a fiction or a corporate entity where the United States is contracting with people and bringing them in under a corporate entity, which is not the government, but looks like the government. So it says U.S. Supreme Court. And that's the title without the. And I've noticed that on some of these court cases, they leave off the in the title, but then they use the United States in the writing. And I don't think it matters because the title is what sets the stage. So we can go back here and we can look at what Google shows us. West v. Barnes, they typed it up and they took out the. They took out both of the these. The Supreme Court of the United States. So this looks like they're already conditioning people to accept that this is the way the government is written. But we've seen from the definition on state, and I know we're talking about federal, and this is a definition on state, but state means condition. So whatever the laws are of that place is the condition. And so state still works as a condition of the law and where the law is located. And the Constitution lays out the state for the United States. And it is a people united under the heading the United States into a body politic, often with the. Okay, so that's why this is important. Okay, so are you paying federal taxes to the United States Department of Treasury of the United States, or are you paying taxes to Department of Treasury of United States or United States Department of Treasury, where they can just make it sound good but still take out all the these? And like I've said in many videos before, the Public Salary Tax Act, the federal taxes are actually for the people on the federal lands and the states. So that's basically what I wanted to show you today. And just point out to you those things. And let you see what I was thinking, let you hear what I was thinking, and see what I was thinking about the use of the word the. So something else, since we're considering taxes and who pays them and who doesn't, we have here the 33, it's right here, it says 33 AmJur, which means American Jurisprudence, 2D, federal taxation, U.S. citizens. So I do not find U.S. citizens in the original body of the Constitution. It says citizens of the United States, which is another change, sort of like the black cat in the Matrix, where he says, oh, deja vu. And she says, what? Was it the same cat, a different cat? This is a different cat. Okay, this is a completely different cat that looks like the same cat, but it's not the cat. It looks like the original. It's not the original. If you've watched my video on Ship of Thesis, I talk about the word the, uppercase T, the lowercase t, and now we're talking about without the in it, and what the designates, and what it means when they take out the, that it's a new body of something. And to me, because the taxes and the Federal Reserve and United States without the in it seems to all lead back to the Federal Reserve Bank, we're talking about a corporate entity, a public-private corporate entity. Okay, so United States citizens are taxpayers, but are you a United States citizen? And if you are, why would you claim to be a United States citizen when the United States is not in the Constitution? Something else that we need to think about is the statutes and how they're written. If it says in the statutes, United States citizen, okay, but it doesn't matter if the statutes use United States citizen, because you have to look at who it's talking to. Is it talking to you, or it's talking to citizens of the United States, or some other thing? The statutes all have to be written according to the laws of statute writing. So a lot of people will say, well, U.S. citizen is just another way of saying citizen of the United States. And I say, no, it's not. And it's not because if you use a phrase designating a certain group of people or a certain thing or a certain idea, you have to use that phrase throughout the statute in the same way. And if you change it, you have to say that you're changing it and what you're changing it into and why you're changing it. So in the statutes written by the federal government, you can see some of them that say that they're going to strike this out, replace it this with this for clarity and purposes of usually something like condensing the statute. So they take out a long phrase, replace it with a short phrase. But even if those statutes are written in any kind of way, they can't change a citizen of the United States to U.S. citizen and take out the, because now you're talking about something completely different, something totally and completely different. So what is a U.S. citizen? My assumption is that it is some creature of the federal government, something legal, but not in the Constitution. So legal just means that they wrote it on paper and they gave it its stamp of approval, but that doesn't mean that it complies with the dictates of the Constitution. So all the laws have to follow the Constitution. They can't go outside the Constitution, and when they do, they're unconstitutional and they're void. So you cannot use a constitutional office for doing unconstitutional things. That's treason. Acting outside your oath and using the constitutional office for anything outside the Constitution is treason. That's why they often go back and they say the Constitution allows us to do this, that, or the other, but usually they're just making things up. They're stretching the ideas and they're taking advantage of the fact that we've all been educated in these progressive education schools, public schools that don't really teach us how to think. They don't teach us how to think critically or logically. They don't show us, what are the rules to some of the way the systems work. And that allows them to change it and basically do what they want. The amateur, like the state jurisprudence books are intended for use by lawyers and attorneys. However, anyone can go into a law library and look at the books. And it says usually in the front that it's intended for courts, lawyers, and attorneys. But like I said, anybody can go in and look at them and understand that a lot of these things that these people do in court, we're mostly ignorant of how they're going about doing it. And I think what it normally boils down to is that in some way we have agreed to do things that we don't really want to do because we signed some piece of paper because we were told we had to sign the paper. But if we have to sign the paper, then they don't have authority until after we sign it. And once we sign it, we gave them the authority to do it, and then they do it. So they tell you it's constitutional and everybody has to pay taxes and blah, blah, blah. And they tell you you have to sign the paper. You have to sign it. If you don't sign it, you'll be in trouble and this, that, and the other. But in reality, if you don't sign it, they don't have any jurisdiction. They don't have any authority. You signing it puts you under them. And it puts you under this commerce, this idea of commerce, and this idea that the federal government can regulate commerce of individual people, which they can't actually. So I know people read the Constitution, and when you read the Constitution, you often are thinking about the things that you were told or learned in school. And so it's hard to turn that off, that perception off, and start thinking critically about what the Constitution is actually saying. It's very, very hard to do that. And for some people like me, it takes a really long time. I've been studying for a long time, and I was in the military and I worked for the DoD as a civil servant. And so I kind of had a little bit of an idea, because when you work for the government, they teach you what I'm teaching you, or you learn what I'm teaching you. If you work for the government and you have somebody who's willing to take you under their wing, who knows this stuff, because not all of them do, and they teach you this stuff, then it's when you start learning it falls all together. It's like a big puzzle piece that the puzzle pieces are just coming together. And it's once you start seeing the bigger picture, everything really makes a whole lot more sense than all the stuff that they tell you that you're supposed to believe. And for me, it was always like, well, that doesn't really make sense. That doesn't make any sense. And that doesn't make any sense. But then when you start looking at it from a different point of view, it starts making sense. But I agree, it's hard, very hard, to change your perception about something once you've been in that system for such a long time. Just like they told Neo, they don't usually pull people out after, 30 or something, because it's too hard for them to change. They can't understand a new perception of something. They do it when they're younger. And I think what that symbolizes from an entertainment perspective to a reality perspective is that it is really difficult to look at the Constitution and not see what you've been told to see, but see something else altogether. Nearly impossible. It's taken me such a long time. And I've had a few people lead me and kind of let me find my own way. And when I start looking at all the documents and looking at all the papers and looking at all this stuff, really looking at it from another perspective, or with their little voice in the back of my head saying, look here, look at that, oh, isn't that strange? Then, I'm able to, over time, come to terms with the fact that most of what I've been taught, and so most of what you've been taught, has been a lie. And you have to really have a strong mind to be able to fight the old perceptions, to accept the new perceptions, which were older than the old perceptions. So these are the perceptions of the founders, I think, that I'm trying to help people understand. Whether you accept it or not is clearly up to you, up to every individual what they want to believe. But I think there is a truth to things, and the truth is always worth knowing. and that, you know, people can make up their own minds about what they want to do about it. Accept it or not accept it, and then take action or not take action. Okay, so these are the things that I'm looking at, and these are the things I wanted to share with you. The importance of the word "the" in the titles of the state titles, the court titles, the titles of the federal government, and that helps you understand whether or not this is a corporate entity you're talking to or looking at, or the actual federal government that you're talking to, or the papers that you're looking at. So next time you go out on a hunt for something, or you get something in the mail, or you're filling out an application to get a driver's license or some kind of license, or what have you, your W-4, you might want to take a deeper look at the words on the papers that they're sending you. Okay, so with that, like, share, subscribe, please leave a comment, and I'll see you guys in the next video.